Greetings. My name is Kevin Hamilton, and today I'll be presenting a synopsis of my proposed qualitative case study for research analysis for multicultural education and multilingual perspectives at the University of North Texas at Dallas. This is not a completed research study. Instead, it's a proposal that developed from an authentic classroom experience during my time as a world geography teacher. One student in particular changed the way I thought about multilingual learners and inspired this proposed study. As you watch this presentation, I invite you to think about your own experiences. If you've ever worked with a multilingual learner or have thoughts about this topic, I'd love for you to share them in the comments. Let's begin by meeting the student who inspired this study. I'd like to introduce you to Wednesday Gutierrez. Wednesday is a pseudonym used to protect the student's identity. She is a 14-year-old student who recently arrived from Veracruz, Mexico, and enrolled in my ninth grade world geography classroom. Spanish is her primary language, and she entered my class with beginning English proficiency. What stood out to me wasn't what she struggled with, it was how hard she worked. She came to class prepared, paid attention, completed assignments, and genuinely wanted to participate. Those observations led me to ask one important question: how does limited English proficiency influence a newly arrived multilingual student's ability to access instruction and participate meaningfully in a ninth grade world geography classroom? As you listen, think about a student who may have understood more than they were able to express. Hmm? I'd enjoy hearing those experiences in the comments as well. As I continued observing Wednesday, I realized the problem wasn't motivation, it was access. She often watched classmates before beginning assignments, waited for demonstrations, and relied on visual examples to understand classroom expectations. Just as important was what I didn't observe. I never saw laziness, defiance, or a lack of effort. Instead, I saw a capable student working to overcome a language barrier while learning grade level content. That experience made me ask a difficult question. Was I observing an academic problem, or was I observing a student whose abilities were hidden behind a language barrier? That question became the foundation for this proposed case study and led me to the research design I'll discuss next. After identifying the problem, the next step was deciding how to study it. I selected a qualitative descriptive case study because my goal wasn't to collect statistics. Instead, I wanted to better understand one student's experience in its natural classroom setting. As shown in the research process, I will begin with classroom observations and collect information from student work, formative assessments, and teacher reflections. I will then look for patterns, identify instructional supports, and reflect on how those supports influence student learning. Using multiple sources of evidence helps create a more complete picture of the student's experience and supports more informed instructional decisions. If you're an educator, I love to know what types of evidence you rely on most when trying to better understand your students. Feel free to share that in the comments. Let's move on. The research that guided the proposed study was centered around three educational scholars. Uh, First, Mr. Stephen Krashen, could be pronounced Krashen, emphasizes the importance of comprehensible input, reminding us that students learn best when instruction is understandable and supported through visuals, modeling, and meaningful communication. The second scholar was Carol K. Lee. She explains that multilingual learners actively develop strategies to learn both language and academic content. Her work helped me better understand the learning process from the student's perspective. Finally, Mr. Robert W. Campoy encourages educators to observe carefully before making assumptions about a student's academic ability. This message became one of the most valuable lessons I took from this graduate course. Together, these perspectives helped me focus less on language limitations and more on instructional opportunities. Removing barriers while maintaining high expectations. Once I understood the problem, the next step was identifying possible instructional solutions. The goal isn't to lower expectations, the goal is to remove barriers so students can demonstrate what they know. Based on the research, I would recommend providing comprehensible input using sheltered instruction, creating structured peer partnerships, and giving students multiple ways to demonstrate learning through visuals, discussions, maps, diagrams, and other authentic assessments. Together, these strategies create a more inclusive classroom while maintaining high academic expectations for every learner. As you reflect on your own classroom experiences, what instructional strategy has made the greatest difference for students who needed additional support? I'd enjoy reading your ideas in the comments. All right. How this case changed my thinking? This case challenged me to reflect on some assumptions I didn't realize I had as an educator. Before this experience, I often associated classroom participation with student understanding. Observing Wednesday reminded me that language proficiency and academic ability, they are not the same. It's very important. Let me repeat that. Language proficiency and academic ability are not the same. A student may understand much more than they are able to communicate in English. This experience also reinforced the importance of building relationships and taking time to truly understand each student's strengths before making instructional decisions. Rather than assuming a student is struggling academically, I learned to ask what barriers might be preventing that student from demonstrating success. Ultimately, this case helped me become a more reflective teacher, and I believe that will positively influence every classroom I teach in the future. So, just some more information for educators. Although this proposed study focuses on one student, the lesson extends far beyond a single classroom. As educators, our responsibility is to create learning environments where every student has the opportunity to succeed. That means removing language barriers without lowering academic expectations, celebrating multilingualism as a strength, and providing meaningful supports that allow students to demonstrate what they know. Most importantly, this experience reminded me that effective teaching begins with observation, reflection, and a willingness to continually adapt our instructional practices to meet the needs of all learners. Um, if you like this video, if you think it was informative, please feel free to leave a comment. If you're an educator, what's one strategy you've used to create a more inclusive classroom? Love to hear it. Every student deserves the opportunity to succeed. Here are the references, and thank you for watching.